All right, everyone. So let's talk about the Taliban. Let's talk about Afghanistan. Let's talk about what's happening in this messed up country. Afghanistan is already in a state of civil war, and this really shouldn't surprise anyone because when you have a country this unstable, a civil war is inevitable. You have the anti-Taliban resistance, which just recently killed 30 Taliban fighters as it retook 3 districts away from this terrorist Islamic State. And this resistance is going to continue on. In fact, this really shouldn't surprise anyone. Last week, the British Defense Secretary, his name is Ben Wallace, he stated that Afghanistan is heading towards a civil war. He said this last week. So people already knew that this was going to happen. This was obvious, and you don't really have to be a geopolitical expert or a political analyst or a politician to know that these things are going to happen. Because when you have a country like Afghanistan, which is full of political turmoil, religious fanaticism, and just plain capriciousness and instability, I mean, it's quite conspicuous that civil war is going to erupt. And the only thing that was holding that country together was America's military presence. And now that America's military presence is really no more, civil war is in the country. It's ever present, and it's there. Now, what happens when you have a country that is going through civil war? What happens? Other countries that are more powerful are going to be observing the carnage. When you have a country that is in the midst of immense political instability and violence, powerful countries are looking for an opportunity to capitalize on the situation so that they can control that country. We've seen this many times. And that's exactly what Turkey is doing. Turkey actually wants to collaborate with the Taliban so as to establish a Turkish presence within the country. And by having a presence in Afghanistan, Turkey could then further solidify its image as the leading nation of the Islamic world. We all know that Turkey is in Syria, Iraq, Libya, Azerbaijan. Now Turkey wants to be in Afghanistan, right in the middle of Central Asia. And by doing so, Turkey projects this image of itself. It flexes this image of itself as the leading nation of the Islamic world. Turkey is bringing back its empire. It wants to establish a neo-Ottoman empire. And you're seeing it happening right before your eyes. We are living history. We are living history, everyone. It's absolutely crazy. And this is what Erdogan wants to do. And there was an article that came out today on the Jerusalem Post on this, and it talked about how by establishing itself within Afghanistan, Turkey then has this position to influence Iran, because Afghanistan borders right with Iran. Turkey could then project itself on China. Turkey could really have this major position of geopolitical leverage within the region. So we have America leaving Afghanistan, Afghanistan being pushed into turmoil, Afghanistan being in turmoil, full of civil war, chaos, violence, massacres, all that stuff. And with America reclusing itself, countries like Turkey now have the opportunity to establish empire, to create its own block of power. That is what's happening right now. That is what's happening. And Biden has been talking with, to an extent, isolationist rhetoric, talking about how we need to just look after America. Afghanistan can look after itself. And that's that. There was an article that came out about this. It was published by the Washington Post, and I want to read to you guys an excerpt from it. It says, America, with plenty of rebuilding to do at home, should no longer be willing to intervene in languishing foreign conflicts, Biden said. The lives of American troops are not worth risking in those battles, he added, and nation building is a non-starter. This is a view broadly shared by Americans in both parties, even amid the scenes of chaos and heartbreak at the Kabul airport in recent days as desperate Afghans try to flee a Taliban takeover. What interest do we have in Afghanistan at this point, with al-Qaeda gone? Biden asked Friday, overstating the case that the terrorist group behind the September 11th attacks has been extinguished. He added moments later, you've known my position for a long time. It's time to end this war. So America is returning back to its isolationist tradition. And with America making its presence into a power vacuum, that power vacuum has to be filled. That's where Turkey comes into play in the case of Afghanistan. And so we are heading towards a new world order. We are heading towards a new world order, and this new world order is going to consist of multi-poles of power. We have been so used to just America being the sole pole of power over the earth, but now we are going to be entering into a new era where there are going to be multiple blocks of power. America is going to have its own block. Europe is going to have its own block, ran by Germany. Turkey is going to have its own block, the Sunni Islamic world. You're going to have different blocks of power, and they are all going to be pursuing their own hegemonic agendas. And eventually, you're going to have a global conflict, because America is not going to be running the world, and these other countries who have histories of genocide, like Turkey, Germany, Japan, these countries are going to be empowered. They're going to feel like they can just do whatever they want. And that's when you're going to see the horrors that your great-grandparents went through right before your eyes. You're going to be seeing it. Not literally right before your eyes, but you're going to be seeing it through the media. It's going to happen. The horrors of the first half of the 20th century. You're going to be seeing it. Again, it's probably going to be worse because the military technology of today is way more advanced than what they had back then, which means that they are going to have the ability to kill lots of people more efficiently. And that's what you're going to be seeing. That's the world that we are entering. It's not going to be that fun. We are entering a darkness that existed in the past. They say that Afghanistan is the place where empires die. Today I took some time to read about the massacre of the British military in Afghanistan in the 1800s. The British believed that they could control Afghanistan, and they wanted to control Afghanistan because they believed that by establishing a British presence in that country, they could keep the Russians in check, because they believed that the Russians wanted to invade Afghanistan, which they eventually did. So the British had a force of thousands and thousands of people in Afghanistan. This was a mixture of soldiers from Great Britain and soldiers from British India. And they also had their wives and their children with them. So in total, they were around 16,000 people for the British Empire within Afghanistan. The Afghan jihadists, they surrounded the British camp. The British tried to put up a fight. They lost, and the British had to surrender. And they made a deal with the Afghan fighters, which allowed them to make the move to go to British India. So as these 16,000 people were traveling to British India, the Afghans began to pick them apart and eventually it became a wholesale slaughter, and 16,000 people were murdered. And they say that everyone but one British man survived. They call Afghanistan the place where empires die. And you are seeing the American empire decline right before your eyes. It is occurring. And a new dawn of the world is manifesting. It is transpiring. And we are going to be seeing multiple blocks of power. We are going to be seeing not new empires, but revived empires like the Ottoman Empire. And in the midst of all of that, we are going to be seeing the bloodshed of the past reappear. And we're going to look back and think, how could history repeat itself? How could history repeat itself so vividly, so graphically? But then we will realize that it's not the one who simply reads history that learns from it. It's the one who realizes that the one lesson that we can learn from history is that people don't learn from history. And by acknowledging that, that is where knowledge is truly power. Anyway, you guys just heard some theology. God bless.